Welcome to Business Reporter's Future of Responsible Business campaign. Christiana Figueres, the former Executive Secretary of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and architect of the 2015 Paris Agreement, said in 2020 that we had a 50-50 chance to stop the climate crisis. Our success would depend, she explained, on whether we can manage to completely overhaul our economies and forge a greater sense of collaboration between the private and public sectors. This statement is still valid today. What will this new, more collaborative economy look like? In this series of interviews, we talk to the experts at Fugro, a geodata specialist with over 60 years of experience in mitigating risk for the design, construction and operation of infrastructure assets, both on land and at sea. Their purpose is to contribute to a safe and livable world. In the first episode of the series, we talked to Dr. Pooja Mahapatra to find out how technology, collaboration, behavioural and regulatory change are key to meeting the 2030 and 2050 climate goals. Pooja, what are we going to learn from this interview?
We're going to learn that sustainability has no alternative. To achieve sustainability, we need collaboration, and we need the technological backbone to support both collaboration and sustainable goals. We're also going to learn that we need to know more about our planet. We don't know enough about our oceans, we don't know enough about land, and we don't know enough about what's in between, the coastal zone. This is where Fugro plays a part in all three of these.
The sustainable future is most often described as a fossil-free one, but is the technology ready? And in theory, if there was no business interest in fossil fuel, could we give it up today?
I'd say that the technology is more ready from an energy transition perspective, so about electricity, heating, cooling, transport fuels and so on, but less so when it comes to the other uses of fossil fuels, such as for chemical manufacturing, so fertilizers, plastics and so on. But your question implies that it's really only the business perspective that is the showstopper. And I don't think I fully agree with that, because I think it is really a collaboration between the technology, the business, and the regulatory side of things, but also human behavior that needs to change. So to be able to build technology that will help us in this transition, we will need a significant amount of investment and incentivization by governments. And not only that, we will need to overcome our inertia of being a wasteful society. We will need to be a lot more climate conscious in our behavior to be able to make this work. I mean, if you think of what happened in the COVID pandemic, we learned a lot of things. I learned how to bake great bread. But apart from that, what we did learn is that the world can make very drastic changes in a very short amount of time and channel resources that are needed to fight that particular problem, because there is that sense of urgency. And we need the climate crisis, we need energy transition to have that level of urgency in the minds of our leaders, in the minds of our population. And it's only then that we will really have tangible action.
Christiana Figueres emphasises the need for collaboration. How does Europe and the international community perform, and how do leaders perform?
We're taking steps now. If you look at the examples of, in 2020, the European Union's Green Deal, or the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act in the US, and of course individual European Union countries setting net zero targets of around 2045, 2050 and so on. I think these are all steps in the right direction, but it's not enough. It's not enough to be able to meet the climate targets that have been set in the Paris Agreement. It needs investment of the current generation to be able to safeguard the future generations from actual harm, from actual climate-induced harm. And for this, it will need our leaders to be able to use everything in their power.
You mentioned the importance of the ocean. I'd like you to take a step back and explain to us why it's so important and why the data that you collect from there is so important.
We live on land, but life actually started in the oceans. And the oceans cover 70% of our Earth's surface, And if you think about it from the perspective of climate change, the oceans are responsible for capturing over 90% of the heat, the additional heat that is being generated because of greenhouse gas emissions. All this work that the oceans are doing also means that the oceans are getting warmer and they're getting more acidic. It is resulting in more powerful tropical storms. It is resulting in increased global rainfall, which is causing floodings in many parts of the world. We're seeing what's happening in Pakistan, for instance. We see that there is a deterioration in the biosphere, in the marine biosphere. You see what's happening at the Great Barrier Reef with the coral bleaching. And you see the effects of sea level rise. And not just that, you also see that warmer oceans are able to capture less and less of the carbon dioxide, which means that at some point we will reach a tipping point where the oceans are no longer able to capture enough carbon dioxide. To be able to monitor this and take action, we need more information, more data about the ocean. We in fact know a lot more about the moon and Mars than we know about the bottoms of our ocean. And why is this important? By knowing the bathymetry, we are able to model surface currents, and surface currents play a key role in maintaining the climate of our planet. We also need to know about the oceans to be able to build infrastructure that is required for a sustainable energy transition. Think about offshore wind farms, which are going further and further away from shorelines.
Pooja, we've discussed collaboration, the culture of change, executive buy-ins, the business and economic cases behind the transition. But countries and jurisdictions, cultures and societies, they're all different. How can you adjust your experience and advice so collaboration is applicable worldwide?
What we as Fugro are doing and definitely need to do is use our experience and network to really facilitate this collaboration over very large teams. So take the example of oceans that I was talking about a minute or two ago. We are essentially coordinating a working group. So there's a working group with the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Committee, the IOC of UNESCO, and our CEO, Mark Heine. He's actually co-chairing that working group, working together with the team there in actually democratizing the ocean data. Not just we as Fugro collect, but also various other companies within the blue economy. And by doing so, we are able to mobilize that sort of thinking in the broader global community. And this is really how you create that global collaboration.
And I want to finally ask you how successful you think those collaborations are.
I think we're definitely seeing a very encouraging trend. I think compared to, let's say, a decade or two ago, where climate action was optional, more and more companies, more and more entities are taking this as an existential threat and are therefore more keen to collaborate and more keen to work together for the greater good. This is something we are happy to enable and we're happy to be part of going forward. So I guess as a closing thought, Fugro has been active not just in the maritime sector, but also around various topics of sustainable infrastructure, climate change adaptation, particularly in the coastal zones, and this is really our vision and our purpose. Our purpose is to unlock insights from geodata for a safe and livable world.
This is Dr. Pooja Mahapatra from Fugro.